Oh, howdy, everybody. If everything is going right according to the YouTube gods, you should all be hearing me. I'm Ash from Ash on Comics. Joining me on our awesome late night stream is Jimmy from Comics Quirks, also known as
How you doing?
Joshua, and my infamous cohort in crime, Eric Breen, and my go-to guy for comic knowledge.
Good evening or morning, depending on where you may be.
Oh yes. Well, where I am, it's still Wednesday, so I can say Happy New Comic Book Day.
Yeah, me too. Happy New Comic Book Day.
So,
Yeah, but from where I am, it's only 6 days till New Comic Book Day.
Isn't that the worst
uh,
feeling the day after Comic Book Day and you have to just wait another week before new ones come out?
well, not for Eric because all his new comic book days are in the past.
Remember, the future of comics is back issues.
It
and
really
what
is, though.
and what a wonderful future that is.
It's better than the one we seem to be headed towards.
Oh
I don't
God,
know. I don't know, man. Sometimes, bad things create good things. I mean, look
like
at
Wonder Girl taking over Wonder Woman and Teen Lantern taking over Green Lantern and Superboy taking over Superman. Yeah, that is not good time for me.
no, that's not a good time. That's very true. But um, the British, kind to tighten their grip on the American colonists back in the 1700s. Created a really good thing. We got the one of the freest nations in the history of the world. Look at the Japan when they decided to poke the bear back in the 1940s. They got bombed to oblivion, and then they became a technical powerhouse. Became one of the greatest countries in the world. Sometimes you go through a dark time, it allows you to rebuild even better and stronger. I was just watching something interesting I saw today about Sweden's economy. Apparently, like back in the 70s and 80s, like Sweden went through this really socialistic time, drove their economy into ruins, and it caused them to go, "Yeah, this is dumb." They actually fixed things. Um, so I don't know. I'm just trying to look at the bright side. Maybe, maybe some pain and some dark times will allow the comic companies to reemerge better and stronger.
I feel like the comic industry is kind of like China right now.
So,
Whatever
you,
they think something's getting better, it doesn't last long.
well, unfortunately, we're becoming more like China. That's a scary thing. You can't even talk bad about China in the United States anymore. I mean, who thought we would live in a day and age like that where talking bad about China uh, will get you deplatformed and all sorts of stuff.
And here I thought that was just the NBA.
Yeah, no, it's. Did you hear about that, Eric? Blizzard. You know who Blizzard Entertainment is? The company that made World of Warcraft.
Mm-mm.
So Blizzard Entertainment is a company that made World of War. I know you know about that game. They make lots of successful games. Blizzard is probably like one of the greatest video game companies ever. Um, their reputation of quality games, successful games is just off the charts. Their resume is almost incomparable. Like no other company can kind of compare themselves. Well, they have this game called Hearthstone, which is like Magic the Gathering, but like a simplified version, so you can play like mobile. And it's super popular. It's been around for years. They have a professional gaming league for it. The guy that just won the World Hearthstone Championship, apparently he made some sort of comment about expressing solidarity with the Hong Kong, the people of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Blizzard Entertainment, Blizzard decided to revoke his win and take all of his winnings for making that statement.
Well, the general manager of the Houston Rockets is going to lose his job. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to.
What do you do?
Oh, he tweeted solidarity to the Hong Kong protesters, and now the NBA was supposed to play a game over there. It might even be today, and they flew over, and they had billboards that took up the size of buildings, and the government ordered them taken down. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of crap going on. The NBA. David Silver or Adam Silver did say, he sort of tacitly stood up for the Rockets GM, but there's too much money at stake. Like I said, there's anybody that speaks out against China is going to be, I said, deplatformed, shut down, thrown in a hole. And I said unfortunately, those the Hong Kong protesters, they're screwed because
So what's going on in China right now that I don't know about?
well, they want Hong Kong back.
So Jimmy, here, Hong Kong for many was it 90 years was a territory of United Kingdom. It was like a colony.
Yeah, I know.
And
I took East Asian culture in
okay,
college.
okay. I didn't know how much.
All the way up to the Emperor's Big Red Book.
Well,
I mean,
do
little red book.
Do you know then about how the contract or whatever that or the treaty that the UK had with China
Yep.
ran out? I believe it was like at the end of the 90s. When was that, Breen?
I don't know exactly.
I think it sounds right, like 99 or something. I don't know. It might have been when you were born, Breen, but that treaty ran out or whatever, expired, and Hong Kong was to revert back into Chinese control, which it has. But Hong Kong is like the mecca of Chinese economy. Like it's where all the capitalism and all the trade goes through. It's the richest part of China by far.
Oh yeah.
Surprise, because it's capitalist. So China didn't mess with it too much right away. But over the past, it's been almost 20 years, I guess, maybe, like they've been tightening their grips, and slowly the people are losing their freedoms as they're reverting to communist control. It's going to kind of be what happens in the United States here, and not too distant future if we keep following this path. And so the people of Hong Kong, who've known nothing but capitalist, freedom under pretty much what the British Parliament offers, it's not much different than the UK, don't like that, naturally. I mean, it'd be like us just all of a sudden being subjected to Chinese law and stuff. We would just be like, what do you mean I can't say what I want? So that's why there's tons of protesting in Hong Kong, just the people, and China hasn't really been able to do much about it, because what do you do? I mean, you got millions of people protesting. You can't lock them all up. You can't really kill them. That China's been down that road. And then the problem here we're facing today is the United States is, sadly, we're kind of right back where we were 100 years ago when the socialists in the United States were supporting the fascists in Europe. And now we've got a bunch of our socialists here are supporting all the hard leftists and all around the world. And it's all about money, just like Coke had big money in Germany. You know about Fanta. Fanta is the Nazi soda.
Is that what it really is?
Yeah, Fanta used to be the drink that the Coke made for the Nazis. It's amazing if you go back and study history, actually, how much of America was actually in support of Nazi Germany. And it was a big thing, the liberals. And then, of course, after the Holocaust was discovered, all the liberals immediately were like, "Oh no, we hated the Germans all along." Oh yeah, everyone was like rat. It was like turning on the lights and the cockroaches scurrying. And so for decades, liberals went way far away, like did everything they could to distance themselves from the Nazis. But now that it's been, 80, 90 years, it's creeping back and everyone's kind of forgot. Uh, but yeah. Um, let's see. Maverick says, that's why I don't watch modern movies. They're all made for China. Well, I don't know if that's a reason not to watch a modern movie. I mean, they are still made for us too. I don't have anything a problem with movies or anything made for Chinese people, or it's not the people. It's there's a lot of good people in China. Anyways, why are we even talking about politics? It's new comic book day. I didn't get any Chinese comics. Did you get any Chinese
Well,
comics, Eric?
no, but yes, hello, Bianca fights the zombies.
Christy's here.
Hello, Christy.
This is where Eric shows me up and tries to illustrate how bad I am for not paying attention to the chat. Very subtle of you.
No, if I were doing that, I would just say, Ash, do your damn job. You had one job.
Yeah, I fail. I fail at life.
you already said that earlier.
Yeah. On the Discord channel, I said that because apparently I discovered that Ethan Van Sciver on his newest campaign is selling the proof copies for Cyberfrog. The proof copies are sort of like the test run that you make sure that the printing, everything came out right. When it goes through the presses, you can actually look at physical copies. They don't do like an actual cover. It just has like proof copy on the cover. It's not really meant for sale. Like it's just supposed to be trash. But like the good businessman that he is, he's decided to sell them for $100 a piece, and he's got 250 of them. So if he sells them all, it's $25,000. And that's why I said I fail at life because there's guys selling trash for $25,000. What am I doing? What are you doing? What are any of us doing?
Yeah, why are we even here? Yeah, I said what yeah.
I fail. But it is good to see everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hadn't got around to getting to the chat yet. I was going to as more people filtered in. We just started BSing about politics because we're idiots.
But for once, we didn't lose our audience by doing that.
That's true. I normally don't. Yeah. I
can be Edward. Yo.
Let's see here. All right, everyone that's made political comments, I appreciate them. I'm reading them. I'm not going to read them out loud just because I don't want to. I am the kind of person that will go down the rabbit hole, and if I keep reading them, I'll comment on them, and then I'll just stick on it. So I'm not ignoring them. Christy's here. Hello. Ed's here. Yo. Computer robots. Good to see you. This is a guy. He always says hi to me, no matter what chat he's in, anywhere I'm at. He's a nice guy. Maverick is an old face. I've seen him around forever. And he says, I'm just being part of the conversation, and I appreciate that, dude. I just wanted you to know that I was trying to just steer the ship. Dragon Majesty is here. How you doing, Dragon? So, Eric, I hear that you went to the comic book store and you didn't buy Hawkman.
I did not. I missed it.
What a phony. You're not a Hawkman fan.
Yeah, you're not a Hawkman fan.
Oh, contraire. the Hawkman I was reading today. Oh man, my camera froze.
Oh no.
It's been doing this a lot lately.
Try doing the stop cam and then starting it back up maybe.
That didn't work last time, but all right, give me a minute.
Well, now it's just me and Jimmy. Jimmy, did you get Hawkman?
No, I didn't pick it up.
You big phony.
I just don't.
Everyone in the chat, you're free to ridicule anyone on the panel that didn't buy Hawkman. Just for the record, I did buy Hawkman, so no need to ridicule
Those
me.
12 issues were fantastic. The
Oh
next
my
two
goodness.
were mediocre.
Well, I mean, if by mediocre you meant, nah, I'm not going to go down that path. That was too easy bait. Hashtag read Hawkman, says Maverick, and I concur. Hashtag read Hawkman. Let's get our boy Eric Breen.
There we go. You see
What's
it?
going on? Oh, super villains. That's what I see.
Secret Society of Supervillains.
Oh, yeah,
There's
look at that.
Sinestro beating your boy down.
That's pretty good. Problem is, I got the echo again. So whatever you did, Eric, the echo's back.
It's back now.
Yeah. Does your web camera have a mic on it?
My computer's just on its last legs. All right. Well, I'm gonna go all the way out and come back, and if it works, great. If not, I'll just listen.
We need you, man. Back. We need you. Make it happen.
I'll be back.
All right, Jimmy.
Where he went.
I didn't see you do a pull list video this week.
Actually,
I haven't seen you do a pull list video in a while. What'd you get?
You know that video I posted today?
I didn't have a chance to see it. I was stuck in YouTube hell.
I did a review of Batman Universe #4.
Oh. You been liking that? I've read the first issue, but not the other ones.
Oh, I've been loving it. Yeah. That and Curse of the White Knight are the only Batman books I read. Because Curse of the White Knight's pretty crazy, insane, intense, fun, dark. And Bendis writes Batman Universe like it's more lighthearted, a little more funny. It's for more of like a everyone can read it comic more instead of like the dark stuff where like, yeah, I wouldn't have like a kid read it.
You know, I have to admit, I didn't hate that first issue that I read, the Batman Universe. I think it's got a terrible name for the comic, but
he didn't choose it.
I like some of the things that they did in that book.
It gets way better, and yeah. So to go back to your first question, I did do a pull list video. It was my review of Batman Universe #4. That's the only book I picked up this week.
My goodness.
But yeah, this book is so much. It's more fun.
How did you not pick up Oblivion Song? I thought you were like, you had a hard on for that book.
Because I want it to be the last thing I read. I didn't pick up a lot of stuff, so I want it to be the last thing I read when I read this week's comics, so I can end like on a high note. You know what I mean?
Well, you could still read it last. You can still pick it up and read it last.
Well, no, I wanted to read something because I was going to read something before I go into work today. And so I picked up the book. I got to work a half hour early, sat in the car, read the book, and went in. But
so you didn't even get Superman?
Oh fuck! Don't get me started. You want to get me started on that right now?
I'm just surprised you didn't get it. I know you like it.
Oh fuck!
I thought you liked
it.
David
LaFuente needs to stay the hell away from Superman.
Well, that makes a second person.
David LaFuente. Oh my god, they look like old Tech Deck characters, like those stupid like small little figures with giant hands and big feet, but the body's kind of small and it just looks blocky and weird. Why the hell would that be in a Superman book? Superman's the main is the top two because Batman. So it's like it's the biggest name in the world besides Batman, if not tied for Batman or better, for just the biggest superhero in comics. And you put a guy who looks like he should be on Squirrel Girl? What? Oh my god. And the story. Oh my god. The whole story was 20 pages of him and Damian literally just punching random villains and going, I don't know if I should go to. Here's the whole story. Here you go. I'm going to save you a couple bucks, Ash. Hey, Damien, I don't know if I
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I appreciate you want to do this, but this is a stream when we do videos about books. People know what they're getting into, and they be spoiled. I don't want anyone who comes on the stream to feel like they're gonna get book spoiled. So I'm gonna kindly ask you to not reveal the book on the stream because it's just indiscriminate spoilers. So
Okay, well, you could literally have had Superboy and Damien in one page just going, yeah, no, okay, cool, thank you, and just leave, and boom, end the comic in one page. And he spread it out. Like, this is the first time I'm saying this. Like, he spread a single conversation out for 20 pages.
Eric, oh, my alarm's going off.
It's genuinely annoying. These past 3 issues, first issue, like issue 13, I liked. I thought, okay, that wasn't bad. Issue 14, what am I reading? Issue 15, okay, it's the same thing as the last 2. And now this one, you're just like, what the hell? You had a whole 2 books dedicated to this for no reason. Oh my god. And of course, like, there's news out there right now saying how Bendis is possibly killing off Superman to make Superboy take over the title. If he kills my favorite character, I am probably not going to read any book, any DC book besides like Young Justice.
Did you see the? I think Tahilim's in the chat. Hello, Tahilim. Good to see you. Tahilim posted in our Discord channel about the statement that Brian Bendis made to a fan.
I
Did
didn't
you see that?
what he said to his fan, but I saw what the fan said after.
Well, that was a different one. But so, Eric, are you with us, by the way?
Am I?
You are.
Yep.
Good. Awesome. Glad to have you back. Sound great. Apparently Bendis, I would do a share screen right now, but I'm having some technical issues.
Aren't we all, apparently?
Yeah, serious. Where are the technical issues? Bendis made a chat to a fan that basically it wasn't outright rude on the level like we're used to in the days when comic pros would tell us to eat a bag of dicks. Bendis didn't quite go like that far, but he really did kind of talk down to the fan who was, kind of upset about John being aged and, kind of expressed his dismay of like, we're not going to see him get to go, 4th grade and experience all these things that, 10-year-old kids go through. And Bendis just sort of talked down to him and said, we decided that this was a better move and, we saved you from all that boring nonsense or something. It just was like,
All right, I'm looking at it right now.
I forget exactly how he worded it, but it sounded really kind of rude. And
so the first person said, all those 4th grade hijinks we were deprived of, doing chores around Kent household, playing Fortnite online with his middle school buddies, homework! Exclamation point. And then Bendis says, I'm sorry of those of you who were pining to watch John do chores, homework, and play Fortnite. We made the bold editorial decision that Legion of Superheroes is a far better use of his and your time and energy. But if you're a big fan of chores, you can come here and do some. I mean, it wasn't mean up until like the last sentence.
it just sounded really condescending and just sort of like, you don't know any better. We don't complain to us fans. We're gonna, give you, the thing that we give you will be. You don't know what you like. It was, who was it, that famous creator that said that? It's you don't know what you like until we tell you what you like or something. It was like it just kind of came across to me that way, and I was like, wow. One thing I
Well,
used to be able to defend Bendis was that he was never kind of bad with fans. And again, it wasn't outwardly terrible. It was just, oh man, because the original fan, he wasn't bad. He wasn't like "F you, Bendis." He wasn't doing that. Um,
okay, to be fair though, two things. Okay, first off, it's not a writer's job to give the fans what they want. It's a writer's job to give the fans something they didn't know they wanted. He hasn't started Legion of Superheroes yet, so if it's bad, you can rip him to shreds. If it's good, then great. And second, he's been ridiculed. Just imagine hundreds of people hating a book, thousands, okay, whatever, thousands of people hating a book he does and what he's doing to a character. Oh, great, he's got that. Oh, wait, can you? Okay, so thousands of people hating a book he does, and they're messaging him about it, and like, we hate your book. What you're doing to this book is horrible. Screw you, Bendis. Blah blah blah. Daily. There's a certain amount of time before it kind of gets to him. He's just a person like anyone else, also. So him kind of having a snarky remark is him kind of just letting off a little bit of steam.
yeah, I mean, I can kind of get that, but at the same time, you're one of the top writers in comics as far as like from a reputation level and a pay grade level.
Mhm.
You're paid to take that shit. Um, get off social media if you can't handle it. That's it's just and the thing is, you're hacking out shit. Fans are upset. If you don't like it, try writing not 10 books a month and making them crap and making fans pissed.
Well, he genuinely thinks he's doing good.
Well, yeah, but he's not.
Exactly.
And so
So
that's
how is he
the
gonna put out
reason
something good
the
if he thinks
the
he's doing
way that you know you're not doing good is when thousands of fans are yelling at you that you're doing crap. It shouldn't have to come down to this. And that's the problem with some of these creators out there because they live in these little ivory towers. And then when we shout loud enough to make sure we're heard, it's overwhelming and then they get defensive and
Okay, hear me out. You're in the middle of a story you've been writing, and fans go, you know what? We don't like your story. Hey, just use Tom King as an example. Tom King, can you stop and just do something we want? What's he gonna do? Just go, you know what? You're right. In the middle of his story, just stop and just change and take back everything he just did. That will make fans hate you even more.
oh, I agree. I mean, you can't turn around on a dime, but like for the Tom King example, fans have been screaming bloody murder for 30 issues now. I mean, the wedding issue was 30 issues ago. I mean, if we're only going to go back that far, I would suggest fans were getting unhappy even before the wedding issue. But we'll say issue 50 is when people were like, "We've had enough," and then Tom King, I forget exactly what he said, but when fans were pissed off, he kind of had the nerve to just be like, "You don't know what you want." I think he was the one actually. He might have been the one that said, "You don't know what you want until we tell you," or something.
No, that was the director of Thor.
Oh yeah,
Oh, Taika
he's
Waititi.
he's
So, Ash, can you hear me okay now?
yeah. You sound great, bud.
Okay, I think I figured out what I don't think I had something plugged in right, and I went ahead and unplugged my mic and plugged it back in just to be safe. But can I say something about Bendis real quick since I've
Yeah,
been
of
in and out
course you
all
can.
night?
Go for it, man.
Yeah, Jimmy was talking about how he's probably getting tired of people criticizing everything he does. Well, part of that's because everything he does is going over. It's almost like he's writing to please his room full of peers with no regard to what fans want. You can say that fans don't know what they want until the creator tells them what they want, but that's not always the case. And he has everything he's done since he's been at DC has misfired, and he just keeps for every 20-year-old fan, and I'm not knocking your age, I'm saying for every younger fan, anybody that's been around for a while that even liked him and defended him at Marvel is like, what are you doing? I mean, I said, the thing we were talking about off air before, you know, how many years has the Green Lanterns have they used the power battery, and then we're supposed to believe that some 12-year-old girl can hack into it with something that her mom got at Best Buy?
9 years old. She's 9.
I'm sorry, 9. And we're supposed to go,
11.
tee hee, that's, LOL, so random, hee hee hee. Yeah, no. I said, quit spitting on everything that came before you. Comics existed for decades before you, Bendis. I would like to say they'll exist after you, but with the way you're, scorched earthing everything, I'm not so sure they will. But it's like, it's, yeah, if he's getting thin-skinned about it, well, here's a crazy idea. Do something that somebody wants, and then maybe you won't have to listen to it as much. Okay, now I'm done.
Well, he genuinely thinks he's doing good. So I don't
What?
see how he can just go, okay. What comic book artist goes, I hate what I'm writing, but I'm writing it.
Jonathan Hickman.
No, he hates Marvel. He doesn't hate X-Men.
Nobody he's talked about. If you, I would assume you would have read his interviews and stuff. He's talked about how in the past he was never happy with his writing, and in regards to the House of X, the Powers of X, he was talking about that directly because he was saying this is like one of the first times where he feels really good, like he finally understands what he's doing. Now that might just be him trying to be kind of humble or whatever, but I think the great ones they're the ones who aren't ever happy. That's why they're great, because they don't think that they're the goose is laying the golden egg. They don't think that they're all the best. The guys that are full of them, like you can see, as soon as Tom King started getting all this notoriety for Batman, and all these Axis Media shill sites were like, Tom King is the greatest writer, writing the greatest Batman run that's ever was. His writing went to shit. I'm going through it. I'm rereading that entire Batman run again to sort of like track where it fell apart, because it legitimately started off good.
It did. I
It
genuinely loved it.
that first run, I Am Gotham, is a great story. And
Now, his best one he has is War of Jokes and Reels.
okay, fine, but it's not just a great story and then it's a great story, but the things that he does in there, the way he structures some of the scenes, it's like he really took time to consider not just the story he was telling, but how to tell it. And the later stuff is just like he's just on cruise control. Like he feels like he could just like, oh look, here's a page of a person just sitting here, and I'm just gonna write all this whimsical dialogue, and it's gonna come off like I'm some sort of great artist. And you're just like, no, you're what the hell? What the hell's wrong with you? He just thinks that everything he writes is gold, and that we're all just gonna sit here and just be marveled by it. And it's that sort of attitude, in my experience, not just from writers, artists that way too. There's some artists that have become that way, where they just think, oh, I can just scribble something on a paper and everyone loves it. And it's like, no, the reason why you were good is because you tried. um, yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I really feel Bendis. His problem isn't that he doesn't know how to write. His problem is that he doesn't even try to write. He's just pooping out stuff, and everyone at DC is patting him on the back, and they're like, "Oh, Ben, I mean, look at it. What kind of inflated ego do you have to have when you open up a DC comic and there's 7 pages devoted to advertising you?" I remember reading comics before this Event Leviathan came out, and there was, I think one of them I had 8 pages about Event Leviathan, And remember, before he even came to DC, it was Bendis is coming. I mean, billboards, and it's just like that just gets to your ego. That just fuels the problem that a writer like he has.
Well, yeah, and part of it also, in the like 2005, he did have a large part in saving the Avengers, so to speak. When he basically remade it with Spider-Man, Wolverine, Luke Cage, Spider-Woman, and just the three left, Cap, Iron Man, and I always forget who the seventh one was. But at the time of the Avengers was such a low tier property that, like I said, the Ultimate Avengers weren't even called the Ultimate Avengers because they didn't want the stink of the word Avengers on the title. And Bendis basically put the Avengers back on the map, and soon there was two, three actually good Avengers titles. Now you can argue as to whether or not the Avengers were broken at the time, but he does get some credit for basically putting them back on the map and making them successful again. Problem was, Superman wasn't broken, and he came through there like a wrecking ball without Miley Cyrus riding it, and just changed everything.
Do you want to know why?
Because Miley Cyrus wasn't available?
No, he was on. I encourage you guys to go back to. There was an interview he did for C2E2 2018 with Mark Millar, and he said it's always good. He said he did great. The reason he did great on Daredevil because the guy before him sucked. The reason he did good on Avengers because the guy before him sucked. So he was like, when he came to DC, he said he's taking over Superman, and they're doing great. So he goes, now I'm kind of screwed. So that's why he tried to do these big things that just didn't work out.
But he hasn't done anything. That's the problem. It's not that he did big things and they didn't work out. You could argue that what's his nuts Jurgens. You could argue that Jurgens, like the Mr. Oz thing, kind of didn't work out. He tried something. But some people love it, some people hate it. It's one of those divisive stories. But you can do things like this. That didn't work out. But I've read every Bendis Superman book. He literally hasn't done anything. The Superman reads like a filibuster. He just goes on and on and on, and nothing ever actually happens. And then finally, this Rogol-Zar storyline that you thought was this big thing, like Bendis is coming and he's invented this new villain. And 30 issues in, the end is, oh, Rogol-Zar gets arrested by the Star Police. Like, what? Superman 2. It's like the police just showed up and arrested everyone at the party. The end. I don't know if you've ever been at a house party where that happened, where the police show up.
Yeah.
That like reminded me of that. Like I was just like, that's it? Like there was no plot. It was just on and on and on and on and on. And then, oh, stop the story. Police are showed up. Party's over. Oh, by the way, did you know I'm writing a Legion of Superheroes book? You didn't? Well, let me tell you, the next several issues of Superman is going to be all about Legion of Superheroes. I can promote my new book.
And then the next several issues of Legion of Superheroes are going to be about Rose and Thorn. Oh, Ash, if I take a second to address some computer robots, I started to type it, then I realized it'd be easier to run my mouth instead. Now, when Busiek left the book in like 2003 or whatever, and they brought in Chuck Austin and then Jeff Johns, who admittedly Jeff Johns was not the right fit for the Avengers. And then when you couple that with how far they'd fallen in the 90s, I mean, the Avengers falling off the map was part of the reason, during the bankruptcy, that they sold the characters to Image to try to, jumpstart them. And then after that ended, the title was good for a few years, but it started falling again. And then by 2004, people had pretty much lost interest. In 2001, like I said, They didn't even want to call it the Ultimate Avengers, even though that's essentially what they were.
It all started with Rob Liefeld on there when the sales went down.
Well, Rob
People,
Liefeld didn't do the Avengers; he did the Captain America when they did
no, he
that.
did Avengers also.
If he did, he only did the first couple. Then they brought. He
Here, I'll pull it up.
might have been the first two. Now that I think about it, but either way, like I said, you know, and I think they could have fixed the Avengers without you know putting Spider-Man, Wolverine in it, but and and if you recall, Bendis was a huge mark for Luke Cage because he put her in Alias as Jessica Jones's love interest, and so he wanted to bring him into the Avengers when he got that job. So
It
that's
was
how Luke Cage got in.
Avengers. He was on the '96 run of Avengers with Valentina.
Okay, how many issues did he do?
Yeah, I have no idea. Let me look.
I know he wasn't around for the whole. It only lasted 13 issues. They're supposed to last 12. They gave him one more. But I know he wasn't on even half of those. But either way, they weren't good.
Yeah, it all started with that, and then uh, when did Bendis take over? I want to say 2008,
In 2005.
2005.
Yeah, yeah, it was right after the disassembled
Was
storyline.
that New Avengers?
Yeah, and
Yeah, that was actually really good.
well, again, it was different. It wasn't an Avengers book, but it was different, and it was, you know, I mean, like I said, I liked it. I mean, I never liked it as much as I liked the traditional Avengers, but then again, like I said, I've been around forever.
He
Um,
wrote the Century, the
now,
best I've ever
now
seen.
he had good ideas for for the characters that he used. Problem with Bendis, even back then, he had what I call spin the bottle dialogue. It didn't matter where the dialogue was pointed, the words came out the same. And then when he had Ben Grimm and Doctor Strange both used the word dude, yeah, I'm sorry, that's just that doesn't work.
See, Ben
Yeah,
Grimm, I can see saying that. Doctor Strange, definitely not.
I can't see either of them
Yeah,
saying that.
Ben Grimm's supposed to be in his 50s.
Yeah, he's from Yancey Street. I don't think they say dude.
I know.
I think you get beat up if you say dude on Yancey Street.
But that said, I mean, I said the ideas were solid, and he helped plot a lot of really good stuff that happened at Marvel for those 5 or 6 years. Um, but that's that but he stayed at Marvel too long. I said the Iron Man stuff was crap. Um,
Actually, no. His Iron Man was good up until Riri.
and see, I'm not. Wasn't he the one that decided that Tony was adopted and was adopted by a man that looks just like him, that had the exact same aptitude for science? That it said blah blah blah. It said he.
That's what this is the mo that I've noticed about Bendis, and I kind of do want to stray away from the. I don't want to sit here and harp on Bendis all night, but one of the MOs I've noticed as I've been reading him longer and becoming, and I used to champion the guy. I was kind of, he does have some talents. There's a reason he got to be in the spotlight. But I've noticed that he likes to put his stamp on everything. When you go and read anything that any extensive work that he's done on any book, he changes everything, right? And so when Iron Man, it's no different than what he's doing with Superman right now, right? Superman's about to have his identity exposed.
No, no,
There's
no, no.
there's rumors that Clark Kent's going to be killed.
No, there's rumor that Superman's going to be killed entirely to have Superboy taken
Well,
over.
that's a new rumor, but they may both happen. I believe the Superboy thing will be down the road after Bendis has had at least 12 issues of Legion. He's got to use Superboy to prop up his Legion book, because I don't think anyone would actually care
Well,
about the Legion book without Superboy, or at least that's DC's thinking. It's because
well, to be
he's not
fair,
even using the traditional Legion, so it's not. Legion fans are a different animal from what I'm observing than your normal DC fans. Legion fans are the closest thing that DC has, I think, to X-Men fans. Right? You can have Marvel fans and then you can have X-Men fans, but they don't always necessarily cross. You got some people who are like, I just love my X-Men. I don't buy any other Marvel. And I've seen that at DC. Like they love their Legion, and when Legion comes in, they're like, oh, they get it, and they don't care about Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman. Anyways, so that Bendis is gonna have a harder time, like just like he did with X-Men. Um, it's not a same type of uh, fan, the same type of group of people that are so forgiving or just be like, oh, whatever Bendis does is great. And I don't know. He tends to wear out his welcome too wherever he goes. Right?
Well,
Imagine if Bendis went back to Iron Man. Do you think he would come on as strong as he did the first time, or people would
yeah,
just be like,
because Dan Slott sucks.
"Yeah, but so did he. He was arguably worse than even Dan Slott."
No, 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 no. Dan Slott can't even write an interesting book. If you don't like Bendis's book, at least it was interesting.
well, yeah. What at least under Bendis wasn't Stark a quasi adult? I mean,
Yeah,
he's a frat boy in the Slot book.
and it wasn't political in Bendis's.
Well, I don't know if it's political in Slots. I just think he's
Oh, it is. There's
I
a
mean,
moment where
other
like,
than I mean, it's other than that, you know, every woman, every female robot, are all 10 times smarter than him because that's
no,
the
no,
new
no.
rules.
There was
But
a female robot when she got killed, and then Tony was like, "Get her body," and they're like, "We can just rebuild her," and he was like, "Yeah, but it's her body," and I was just like,
well, if it
"Robot
was
rebuilder."
if it was at Jocasta,
I don't
because
remember.
if it was Jocasta, that would make sense because that character's 40 plus years old.
Nope, it was not.
Okay, then it's I can't really say one way or another on that then.
I remember it was just like one of those like
But Jocasta was in Slot's Iron Man book at the beginning.
I know the name, but I can't think of it right now. I'll go back to it and get back to you. But it was just literally like a female robot, even if those things exist, um, died or got destroyed. And they're like, pick her, get her. I mean, they're like, let's go, we got to run. He's like, no, get her body. And he was like, no, we can rebuild this. And then he's like, no, but that's her body. You're just like, dude, it's a freaking robot.
All right. So, Quirks, you didn't pick up Powers of X.
I wanted to read something that I didn't have to get confused and think about something and say, I know I love Hickman to death. It's just, I just wanted to sit down and laugh while I read a comic book.
I'm just shocked. I'm not criticizing. You've been a super proponent of Oblivion Song even more than me, and you're the one that hyped up Powers of X to me, and you didn't pick up either one,
Yeah, I know. I'm going
or
to.
Hawkman.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
you didn't buy Oblivion Song?
No, I want it to be the last thing I read.
He didn't even buy Superman.
Fuck David. I'm sorry. Screw David LaFuente.
Uh,
I'm just waiting for the story arc to be done so we can start something new. And then once Superman dies, oh my god! If he does, I'm pretty much done with DC. and except for Young Justice.
Well, Jimmy, when that happens, the silver lining will be that you finally will understand where we're coming from. You'll finally understand how I feel about Thor. You'll finally
That
understand how I feel about Superman now. You finally understand, and we'll be able
no,
to relate. You'll be able to be like, you'll be like, Ash, I know how you felt, and I'll be like, I call you brother.
no, it's not that I don't hate. It's not that I hate the story. It's just I'm not getting my favorite superhero. It's like when Hellboy, whenever they stop doing that in the BPRD, it's gonna be a sad day. But this is a main title Superman, and you're killing my favorite superhero. I mean,
Man, it feels like Thor all over again. I feel bad for you because I know how you feel. I identify with you, and I will be there to have a shoulder to cry on should you need it.
yeah. So that's I picked up uh, Batman universe because I know it's a lighthearted Batman story, and it had Jonah Hex. Let's be honest, Jonah Hex is a straight badass, and yeah, and I was really enjoying the story. And I got home, I took it out of the plastic sleeve, and this thing was like almost in mint condition, and I just read the book, and each page I was just enjoying myself, page after page. I was literally laughing out loud at some points, and I was like, this was worth it.
All right.
See,
Well, at
if
least
I
you
read
got
Hours
at
of
least
that,
you at least you got a new comic. I don't
yeah.
even know if Eric bought a new comic.
I bought some back issues.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, dude, I almost picked up a back issue today. Uh, the I actually used to own this book, but when I sold my first collection, it went with it. I almost picked up Detective Comics 655, the Sam Keith cover.
Oh,
Yeah, I like Sam Keith a lot.
I might have that.
It is a beautiful cover of like Batman grabbing two hands of the shirt of like a child punk.
I can't
Amazing.
remember, but I know that I bought Detective Comics back in the 90s during the Sam Keith era when he was, becoming something. So it's very likely that I picked that up.
And
By the way,
then
Ash, that was beautiful John Byrne and Terry Austin interiors in
Oh,
that
yeah.
Spider-Man annual.
That's pretty beautiful. I don't know if many people in our chat know
Who
well,
John
probably
Byrne is?
everyone knows who John Byrne is
Yeah,
probably, but Terry
yeah,
Austin.
and the people on the cover, Spider-Man. He's a popular character that's had several movies made, and he's been around for almost 60 years. And
Who's that
Doc-
guy with the tentacles coming out his sides and he's wearing a green?
Squid Man.
and I believe that's Doctor Eat Shit Ash.
He's not in comics anymore, is he?
Doctor Eat Shit Ash. He's he's about to make a comeback.
Uh, I hear he's Spider-Man now.
He is. I said, I don't know who was, where I was saying this before. The other annual, because I said apparently he was a staple in the annuals for a while, but in that one, the plot was he was trying to kill 5 million people. So by all means, just let him say he's sorry, and he can become Spider-Man now.
Yeah, that's how it works in
That
comics,
makes sense. Yeah.
especially modern comics. You just say you're sorry, and then you're all good. Like you could be Harley Quinn, and you know, murder how many millions of people? Not millions. She's not the Holocaust, but how many dozens of people? Maybe potentially in the hundreds.
Yeah, that was Cheshire. She blew up, a country, but she was the mother of, Roy Harper's baby. So yeah, she was basically forgiven.
So I was reading. I'm going through the Batman. My screen. I can't wait. I can't share my screen. Um, so I'm reading through the Batman books by King, and I forgot about this panel. So I come across this panel where Batman, he's recruiting people to go. He's gonna invade Santa, whatever Bane's country, and he's recruiting people. One of the people he's recruiting is Catwoman, and he's getting them out of Arkham so that he can form this special task force. And they're like, no, you can't, you can't. And there's this panel where Catwoman's looking at him or something. She confesses like she's murdered 237 people, murdered 237 people. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot about this. I had to take a screenshot of it because everyone keeps telling me like, oh no, you gotta get married. Like, Batman cannot marry Catwoman. Batman does not marry a criminal. Like, it's fundamentally against everything that Batman is. I don't care how much he loves her. It's a great forbidden love story. But not only is she a cat burglar, she's murdered 237 million. She needs to fry on the electric chair.
Now, who did that storyline? Because I kind of remember that too. But was that in New 52 or was
I
that
don't know the
before that?
actual storyline where it happened. I just had
And
the panel.
it was one of those where, I mean, I know sometimes in comics stories just kind of get conveniently forgotten about. Yeah, because
Well,
Pepper.
yes, and I had forgotten about
Well, no,
this.
I'm saying like Pepper and Happy. I think had a son that popped up in Iron Man at some point in the '80s, and that was never referred to again. Yeah, sometimes they'll do storylines and go, "Oh, wait a second, this
Well,
was this."
here's the problem. In the Tom King storyline, this is in Tom King's Batman. Catwoman says to Batman that she murdered 237 people. So if she's referring to an old storyline, it didn't go down the memory hole because Tom King brought the storyline back to specifically mention it in his story, which is also the same story where he's going to marry Batman and Catwoman. So it's not even like he's a different and he's just ignoring what someone else did. He's specifically bringing it back and putting it in his story.
Was she mind controlled? Was it accidental? I mean, what was? Does anybody know?
It was vengeance.
Was it?
They did something to her. They were bad people. They weren't just like, women and children, innocent. They did something bad. There were some bad group of people, and so she went and murdered every single last one of them.
Hmm.
She makes a statement how there were 237 of them and now there are zero.
Ah.
And it's just like, okay. And it's like, I get that you're trying to say, well, murder's okay if they're, not nice people.
Did she say she was sorry?
No.
Wow. So at DC, I mean, at least at Marvel, you have to say you're sorry. You don't even
No,
have to
and
do that at DC.
she makes a statement about that the difference between her and Batman is that, Batman had lost people that he loved and it made him stronger and like want to help people. And, same thing happened to her and just made her want to see the world burn.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like marriage material for Batman. It's like, what the fuck? Fucking Tom King. And this, by the way, is when Batman was still good. It's in the second arc. I Am Suicide. Um, let's see. Computer Robot says Ashon Comics and Comixology has some sales on the Flash, Supergirl, Green Arrow, and Batwoman. Looks in order to honor that awful TV show for Batwoman. There's some Silver Age and Bronze Age books too. That's a good thing to note. Comixology's got some really good sales on right now. I picked up. I just did a video today, but I actually picked up one Marvel book and one DC book. I picked up Doom. What was it? The Books of Doom by Ed Brubaker. Because everyone tells me how great Ed Brubaker is, so I was like, I love Doctor Doom, and he's supposed to be a great writer. And I picked up Man of Steel by John Byrne. Already told Eric about this. But I was like, I mentioned you in my video, by the way, Eric. Did you watch my video today?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay, I didn't know if you had time yet.
No, yeah,
So,
all 42 minutes.
you even know. I hate how you know the time. Yeah, so I mentioned in there, I was just like, it's about time I really get to watching this or reading this book. It's silly of me to not. Some of these books you look at and you're just like, why have I not read this yet? That's a good topic. Quirks. What is a
There's a
what's a big classic book that you know about, like that by reputation, and you just, in the back of your mind, it's a great book and it's something that every comic book fan should like have read at some point in their life, but that you haven't gotten around to.
While he's
oh
thinking,
boy,
I know what my next Discord channel is going to be. Yeah, and I'm going to put right next to what is Ash reading. It's going to be why has Ash not read this?
that's a good one. Oh boy, you should ask Breen that because I need to think.
Well,
Like Marvel or DC?
it would have had to have happened in the last 5 years, Jimmy. And there have been no great stories in the last 5 years, so I've read them all.
There have been great stories in the last 5 years.
Name one.
Cyberfrog.
Name two.
I was hoping for a better reaction. No, no. Batman, or sorry, Spider-Man Life Story is legitimately great.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not going to talk about that because I mean, then you can throw in White Knight and what I'm talking about. When I say that, I'm talking about in continuity things. Like I don't, and I mean, you can throw elements of rebirth and things like that. I'm just saying that there's
Hawkman.
No, that was okay. See, since I forgot to get the last issue, I have to denigrate the rest of them to make myself feel better about the fact that
I feel
couldn't
confident
find the one fucking book that I buy.
I feel confident, even though I haven't read tons of Hawkman. I can feel confident that this is probably the best Hawkman that there's ever been.
I heard Jeff Johns is pretty good.
No, it is.
And that's not knocking. It's not knocking Jeff Johns.
There's, and I mean, like I said, Tony Isabella did a very nice little 17 issue run in the mid '80s.
Nothing like this, though.
No. I'm just saying, but I'm not gonna, trash everything else to prop up something that was better. I mean, it was definitely better, but I'm just saying, Tony Isabella's run was good. Jeff Johns' run was very good, and it tied in with the JSA, which if I had to pick one over the other long term, I'd probably go with Jeff Johns' because it was more integrated with a DC that actually did connect in those years. Unfortunately, Venditti's Hawkman's alone on an island because of the shitstorm that DC's become surrounding it. Whereas in the early 2000s,
they need to put those 60-year history together. I mean, the problem is they didn't map it out before, and everyone's
oh, you're talking about the 5 phases of Doom or whatever they're doing.
I'm talking about Didio's stupid speech.
The 3 Faces of Eve or whatever that storyline's going to be called.
We got map out their history, the 60 years of our history, and there's four generations.
Yeah, that Wolfman and Perez guy, that was a quaint little story they told, but now we need to Dio and Bendis to map it out.
They basically they were like, the reason why all of our stuff's confusing is because we didn't do this before.
Yeah.
No, it's confusing because you're a bunch of imbeciles and you don't know how to run a company. Because when Jeff Johns was chief creative officer and co-president, guess what? You're the number 1 comic company in the world. What happened? Oh, that's right. Jeff Johns stepped down and Dan Didio took back over. What happened right before Jeff Johns was chief creative? Oh, that's right. The New 52. It doesn't take anyone can just connect the dots if they just look at him. It's like the failure is so obvious. You got a guy coming on stage saying fans are more interested in buying the facsimile editions of old comics than they are the new comics. So we're going to keep, he didn't say this last part, but we're just going to keep making the shit that we're making because that's what we do. It's like, what? Yeah, that's right. Make them like the old comics. These great guys that knew what they're doing. John Byrne, Marv Wolfman. You've got Jeff Johns as a modern master. You got these guys are all alive.
Ash,
What?
Would you like to read the quote from Computer Brie Larson?
Oh, the one that got posted up here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he says computer robots says I'm sorry, but Catwoman is the love of Batman's life, and I am sick and tired of the cat and mouse game for 80 years. They need to get married and settle down. Thank you very much. That was a nice one. I don't know if I did a good. I've never heard computer robots speak, so
I
I'm
think it'd
assuming.
be more like, I'm sorry, but like Catwoman is like the love of Batman's life. Like, and
Yeah,
I
I should have done it more like Brie Lies. I'm sorry, but Catwoman is the love of Batman's life, and I'm sick and tired of this cat and mouse game for 80 years. They need to get married and settle down. Thank you very much.
and if you're white, you can't read my book.
Sounded. But I'm sorry, but Catwoman is the love of Batman's life, and I am sick and tired of the cat and mouse game for 80 years. They need to get married and settle down. Thank you very much. Lol.
Boop boop beep pop.
Welcome to the Ash on Comics live stream where we just repeat everything that Computer Robot says over and over.
But it's more of an interpretive.
It's interpretive.
It's like
All right, I have the book,
All right, what's your book?
Craven's Last Hunt.
Oh, you haven't read that, huh?
Nah, I'm not a
been
big
a lo-
Spider-Man fan, but I hear it's great.
You're not a Spider-Man fan?
I'm
Breen
not like
gassed up the car.
wait a second. I'm oh,
okay. To be fair,
drink.
I just never understood, I never understood the appeal of Spider-Man until I read Zdarsky's life story, and then I was like, oh, that's what people like about him.
Oh, see, that's the thing, man. Imagine if you had actually read the iconic Spider-Man stories, like you were a Spider-Man fan. You would, as much as you like Life Story, you would love it if you saw like how Zdarsky tied in all those classic, things that happened in Spider-Man's life into his story. So
So,
now that's a testament to how good that book is that you didn't even need those stories to thoroughly enjoy it.
the best Spider-Man book I've read, well, series, not book. Series, I mean, like, this was my first book I read of Spider-Man that I actually completed the run. Oh crap! What was his name? It was Ben Riley's Scarlet Spider, written by it's one of Bats' favorite writers. It might have been Chuck Dixon.
It definitely would have been Chuck Dixon.
No?
Nah,
I don't think he ever
hasn't
wrote
written for
Spider-Man.
Marvel in 20 years. Yeah, I don't think he ever has written a Spider-Man story.
Yeah, I'll look it up right now. But it's one of Bats' favorite.
Chuck Dixon wrote Punisher, though.
No, he wrote a ton of Punisher.
Yeah. So apparently, Eric, your interpretation of computer robots is semi-accurate.
I saw that.
All right. It is. Hold on.
By the way, you guys in chat, if there's anyone, I would like to know, is there anything you guys, like have? Is there like some epic, story or, trade or graphic novel or something that you just know, everyone's told you about? It's like Watchmen or something where you're just like, oh, it's just like this all-time great book, but I've never read it. What's the one big standout book that you just know you need to read sometime? I would like to hear. And you don't have any of those, do you, Eric?
No, not
You've read them all.
Well, I mean, I said that kind of tongue in cheek, but then the more I think about it, I kind of have.
I think
The guy.
the only thing we might nab you on is maybe some independent book. that you didn't know about or didn't?
Peter David.
Oh yeah, Peter David was a solid writer.
But I'm trying to like what what you know indie book would be considered that you could put in the same breath with some of the all-time great Marvel or DC stories. And depending on who you ask, I mean, there's some people that'll champion like Mage, the hero discovered by Matt Wagner, this 30 something years ago. Um, there was
One of my
obviously like Cerebus, Bone. I mean, I didn't read things like that, but as far as like superhero storylines from the big two, I honestly can't think of any big one unless it was in the last 5 years that I haven't read.
one of the biggest superhero runs, even though it's not a superhero. It's a classic. I think everyone should read this. And I was in Pullman, Washington, home of Washington State University. I was at a library because my friend was his mom was getting married. So I just spent hours there reading like all the graphic novels. And I picked up uh, Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing. And if you haven't read that, that shit is like a must read. Even if it's not even superhero, it's just a great genuine story that when you read, you could pick it up, start from where he started, and then finish where he finished, and be like, "Damn."
Yeah, I've read most of that, but that did okay. If one thing that was this wasn't superhero either. I never read Sandman.
Ooh, oh, damn, that's a good one. Yeah,
Never had a desire to.
that is so good.
Guys, I'm gonna step out for just a second. I will be right back.
All right.
So if you had to like choose a classic story to give to a new reader and be like, "Hey, read this," what would it be?
If I had to choose a classic story to say read it to someone,
Yeah,
I'm not sure I understand the question. Like I pick the story,
yeah. You pick the story to give to like a normie and be like, "Read this. This is what comics are." It's like
Marvels.
you're, huh?
Marvels by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross.
You know what? Speaking of that, I also haven't finished Kingdom Come.
I've never read Kingdom Come. I should probably put that on my list as there's quite a few classics that I haven't read.
See, I
One
took
of
it
them
upon myself to try to read some like the big classic stories, and after like midway through the first issue of Kingdom Come, I was like, I am not into this at all.
hmm,
And it's probably just because of the first issue. I should probably just power through a little bit, but damn, I was so bored.
sometimes these books they fare better if you are like like a scholar of comic lore or whatever. Like Kingdom Come feels like I haven't read it, so I could be totally off base here, but it feels like the kind of book that is going to appeal to people who really kind of know about the golden age of DC and the lore of that. And if you hadn't, you'll still kind of get the story, but you won't necessarily it won't resonate. Is kind of what I'm kind of thinking. Um, I don't know. I could be way off base, but it's one of the reasons I never read it because I was just like, I'm not a DC guy, and it's just looks like it's all a bunch about old DC stuff that I don't know anything about. It's like, um, and Marvel's is kind of that way, but like Spider-Man Life Story, it's better if you know about the key moments of the Marvel universe, of which it kind of breaks it down into like four. Um, it breaks it down into um, the Fantastic Four, the birth of, the whole origin of the Fantastic Four and the coming of
Yeah.
Galactus with Silver Surfer. It's got Spider-Man. I think it has Captain America. With him whole like the World War II and the Mean Fro. I can't remember. It's been so long since I read this book. I definitely know it has Spider-Man, the death of Gwen Stacy, and then it has the mutants. The arrival of X-Men coming on the scene and mutants. That was a major, major impact to the Marvel universe. And man, the way that that book is written, if anyone has not read Marvels, it's if you know those events, you get to kind of see them in a new light. But even if you don't know those events, it doesn't matter. It doesn't go, oh, then you're going to be confused because the whole story is told from the perspective of this photojournalist who works for, I believe, the Daily Bugle, and he kind of lives like his life, like it's like almost like a life story. He lives like generations through the story of Marvels, and it's there in the 60s when the Fantastic Four show up and like all this stuff. And he kind of goes through like the modern era, which at the time was like the 90s because that's when it came out. So it only like spans like 30 years. Um, so he starts off as kind of a young guy and then he ends up, he's kind of an older guy. And he witnesses all these things being this photojournalist, right? And so he's telling the story from like the perspective of like a normal Joe who's like on the scene and just witnessing it all and just being like, oh my God. And it has this sense of grandeur that most comics don't ever capture because they're always kind of just told from the aspect of like, yeah, you've seen these characters do all this stuff before. It's not really that amazing anymore to you. We've all seen these, but this is like everything happening for the first time and it's just like, holy crap. And it's so much like it's so larger than life. It's Alex Ross. It's painted Alex Ross painted art through and through. Um it's I can't recommend that book enough. That is like one of the most singular just and it's Marvel. So it's basically the story of the Marvel universe. Um so and everyone seems to like Marvel to some extent, even if you're just a person who likes the movies.
Yeah, I've been chilly dicking on reading that book.
Put it on your radar. Pick it up sometime. It's me. I mean, it may take you a while to get to it, but just it's like me with the John Byrne Superman. I'm just like, why have I not read? I used to have the excuse of I just don't really read DC, but now I do, and I feel bad when I get in conversations about Superman because I haven't read. There's so many Superman stories I haven't read. Um, and I guess I should start with one of the all-time classics.
No, if I were you, my number one book for Superman would probably have to be Straczynski's Earth One.
I'm worried about reading that one. Those covers scare me.
Don't be. It is, even though it doesn't look like a genuine Superman, it's still the character you love. And Straczynski is so good at doing characterization. It's so beautiful. His character development through the book is beautiful. There's a moment where he first puts on like a suit and tie for the Daily Planet that he just doesn't tuck in his shirt because it's like his first time doing that, and you're like, man, his character. And then at the end of the book, he's like all tidy and neat, and you're just like, man, oh my goodness, like just the subtle stuff.
Yeah, I actually do want to read all those Earth ones someday. I hear that they're all pretty quality.
I heard
Um,
Batman was horrible.
the one that's written by Jeff Johns.
Was that no? I thought
Yeah, it's the only one of the Worth One books that Jeff Johns wrote.
I thought Jeff Johns wrote Wonder Woman.
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
That's okay. I mean, Computer Robot says, "Okay, guys, I gotta get some sleep. Got a conference in the morning. Take care." Computer Robots, thank you so much for showing up. Appreciate you interacting with us.
See
And
ya.
yeah,
Grant
have a good
Morris.
night's sleep. Dragon Majesty says, yes, I like the Earth One hardcovers. My
So do I.
buddy who lives next door, he actually has several of the Earth One hardcovers. So at some point, I'll get around to borrowing them and reading them.
So
So
Venditti did a DC Vertigo book that I really want to read. It's called 6 Days. It's a war book.
yeah, it was a graphic novel.
No, it was single issues.
Was it?
That,
I thought it came out just as a.
and I'm pretty sure it was single issues, and then they also came out with the graphic novel, and they had the graphic novel at my comic shop, but in the used book section, I'm like, ooh, I might have to pick that up.
You don't even buy Hawkman. You're
No,
crazy.
like Venditti.
Oh my goodness, you're killing me.
What's on?
Let's see here. What was it? It's called 6 Days, right?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I'm pretty sure it was also a comic.
Yeah, it's just a single graphic novel.
Is it?
I never saw single issues of this. I might have picked it up had it been. I remember this when this sort of came out, and the reason I didn't pick it up is I was like, I just I can't add $20 books to my pull list, um, despite even though it might probably be good.
Oh, yeah, they have the graphic novel on the used book section for like $12.99, something like that, maybe less.
You know what's good though, man? That doesn't get talked about is Venditti's other book, Freedom Fighters. Um, that's a really fun book.
Seems like he likes war stories.
Yeah, he does seem like he has that kind of background. That's kind of where his knowledge base is. Freedom Fighters is very much that sort of thing. Um, it's 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 about like Nazi occupation of the United States as an alternate history if Germany had won the war, and the original freedom fighters were killed off, and like this is like a new group, and it takes place like 30 years later, and they're trying to rise up again, and it's trying to overthrow Germany essentially, and Germany has a secret weapon up their sleeve called the Overman, which is essentially Nazi Superman, and it's pretty terrifying. Um, and it's oh man, I just love this book, and I just like that they're heroes and they feel like freedom fighters. Um, and I guess I'm very partial to that as well. I love stories of like resistance movements, like the Matrix or Star Wars or any of those types of stories where you have a small band of individuals fighting against, so some tyrannical regime.
I kind of dig it. Then again, I'm not really. If I read a World War II story, I don't really want to read it about plastic men and stuff like that.
But it's not World War II. It's modern. It's just plays an alternate history as if Germany won World War II. But then you fast forward through the years, and it's kind of like in today, but in America that looks totally different.
So Ash, have you ever gone back and checked out any of the older freedom fighter stories?
No, I've been thinking about doing so at some point when this wraps up because this feels like this carries off the who wrote this one? Jim Palmiotti?
Well, I was talking about the first freedom fighters. Yeah, like Uncle Sam first appeared in modern DC because I think he was a like a quality comics character from the going back to the 40s. He showed up like Justice League 107 or something, and there's from one of the different Earths, and they made a couple appearances in. I think the Human Bomb might have been in there with him. A Doll Man, like a handful of the freedom fighters, and then they got their own series in I think late 1975, early 1976. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but yeah, I said and that was the premise from the get go was that the Nazis had won World War II on the Earth, and Uncle Sam was originally from. And can't I can't remember which one that was now, but
In the book I'm reading, in the Vanity book, that they call it Earth X.
I think that's what it was then too. I that just sounded like it was too easy an answer. But yeah, I think that's probably what it was in those days too. And again, like I said, just like Hawkman, there have been other good freedom fighter stories before. This is the best.
Venditti, man, Robert Venditti needs to get some limelight at DC.
Well, the problem with is that he's one of those guys that he appreciates what came before him and tries to make it better without just again without taking a wrecking ball to what has come before it. And I think that's the difference between a legitimate great writer and someone with a lot of hype that may have been great at one time, but because like I said, the reality is, if Bendis went to DC tomorrow and said, "I want to be on Hawkman now," Venditti's gone, and Bendis is in. He sells more books. That's just
You know what though? I'm not convinced that he sells more books. I mean, yes, he sells more Superman than Venditti sells Hawkman, but reverse that. Put Venditti on Superman, put Bendis on Hawkman. I guarantee you Venditti sells more books.
no, but Bendis will sell more Hawkmans than Venditti did, and if Venditti went on to Superman, that he might sell comparable, but so unfortunately, I said Bendis.
I
Bendis
don't
has a name that gets people to check out his work, for good or ill. Yeah, but
I
that's
don't
always
think
been the
it does
case.
any I don't think it holds quite the weight that it used to. And I think it's being obfuscated by the fact that they're putting Bendis on popular books. Like I think if DC launched Legion without Bendis, if they were like, "We're launching Legion of Superheroes," and they put on, I don't know, just any sort of adequate writer, you know, I think there would be an equal amount of hype behind the book.
There's
Uh,
no hype behind Legion of Superheroes. The only okay, because my store, I talked to them about the Legion of Superheroes, and they said that people, DC people, hate it when Legion of Superheroes doesn't have a book, but when there is a book, they don't buy it anyways.
No, they don't. That's one of the things that Legion has never been. I tell you, Legion has not been a big seller for DC since the first half of the 1980s, when it was actually the second best-selling title behind Teen Titans.
Was it written by Giffen or Wolfman?
Uh, Giffen was on there at one point.
he was on later.
Oh no, he was
No, he
on
was
during that
pretty
time.
early.
Yeah,
I thought
but
Giffen was on when they did the double thing, when they did
Yeah,
the.
they did, but he was on before that also. He had like 2 series.
Hmm.
yeah,
There's
he
one
he had
guy who was like really prolific on who wrote like just a
Yeah,
crap Legion books.
dude, that's him. He was on there for
No, it
15.
wasn't. It wasn't him. I think his name starts with a P.
Paul Levitz might have been who you're
Paul
thinking
Levitz.
of.
That sounds right.
Yeah, he
Uh,
was. Then he was made. He followed. He was basically Jeanette Kahn's right hand man. He was Jeff Johns for years before there
was
was
he the one who did the Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes?
who.
Levitz.
I don't know if he quite goes back that far.
Yes,
Um,
Paul Levitz did Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes.
if he did, it would have been towards the tail end of it.
He did. No, he did in the beginning. I'm seeing here the volume. Well, maybe this.
Well,
Hold on.
Superboy started, like in issue 200.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
was in the super.
I'm
It was
sorry.
in the Legion.
They gave him his own volume 1 when he came on. So he started on 234
Oh,
according to
Levitz
this.
did. He's even
Yeah.
older than I thought. But yeah,
Superboy and
Number 234.
yeah, but when you talk about, like I said, guys who were responsible for a lot of the really good DC stuff, Paul Levitz definitely, because definitely deserves some credit because he was, you know, for what I said, I'm Jeanette Kahn didn't know anything about comics. That's why they hired her. Now think about that. When that happens today, we know how that ends. But back in the mid '70s, she'd been on, she'd worked on children's magazines, but they knew they needed to do something because Marvel had just stepped on their heads, and she came in with all kinds of ideas. She was willing to listen, but she was also willing to say, "Hey, I appreciate what you guys are saying, but here's the reality: you guys are getting your asses kicked. So we're gonna do things. I'll listen, but we're gonna do things my way." And it took a while, obviously, but when she's the reason why there was eventually a crisis, why there was a Man of Steel, why there was the why there was a Dark Knight, why there was a Watchmen. All that happened under her watch. And unfortunately, they were never able to catch Marvel in market share. But it wasn't for lack of quality output. And she was very good at her job. And she knew she didn't know enough about comics to meddle in the comics themselves. But her way of like doing things, like like first thing she did when she came in was that all these giant reprint books we do, you know, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to still do the big books, but they're going to be all new material. And that was a risk in those days. But yeah, but Paul Levitz was her. Yeah, get back to him. Was kind of like her right hand man through those years.
Oh wow. So he was kind of like the precursor to Jeff Johns.
Yes, that's why I said he was Jeff Johns. 30 years before there was a Jeff Johns. Well, 20.
Huh. Yeah, he's the one I was kind of going through and looking at all. There's tons of like Legion trade paperbacks you can get of different eras and stuff, and like the Paul Levitt stuff seems to be the most prolific. Like there's just many different eras. Mark Wade has a few.
Mark Waid had some good Legion.
Um,
I read his first volume of Legion in 2005, not the 91, not the 99, I believe 98 or whatever, but his 2004, 2005 was stellar.
Yeah, I remember kind of liking that, but God, don't say that in front of Maranya. Oh boy, she'll give crackers.
yeah, Paul Levitt even wrote the New 52 Legion. And it looks like the reason why Jimmy thinks Keith Giffen did so much is Keith Giffen apparently did some of the art for some of Paul Levitt's
So
Legion
was
books.
Paul Levitz writing it in like the issues like 280s, 290s in that era as well?
Um, I don't
Because
know about
there's
that.
a dark side story that's supposedly like one of the all
Yes,
time
that's the one
great.
with Keith Giffen.
Okay, so that's Levitz and Giffen.
See, I
Yes.
want to read
Okay,
that. What issue is that?
you can get a trade with all of that in it.
Yeah, it's called the Great Darkness Saga. It covers 284 through 296. Breen, you're like spot on.
And
Or I
Ollie's
could read
had
it
it.
online for free and not have to spend money because I'm poor.
Uh,
We don't advocate piracy here on the Ashland Comics channel.
I'm not doing piracy. The only time I do
is,
piracy is when I sell it. I'm not selling it.
is that part of your? Is that free on the DC app or something?
This is how millennials view piracy. No, no, it's piracy is when you steal stuff, not when you sell it.
Piracy, according to the government, is when you steal stuff and also try to sell it.
Negative.
No. Well, I don't know what government you're
It's
you're
the
beholden
you know,
to,
like
but
when you
it's not.
steal, like movies online, and then it's considered piracy when you try to sell it.
Negative.
See, senor.
No,
You
that's not true, Jimmy. Otherwise, why would anybody buy anything?
Oh God, no! It's only piracy is when you steal it and sell it.
You
According to the government, it's when you steal it, sell it. When it comes to movies and online,
no, it's not okay for someone to steal it, post it, and then everybody watches it, and nobody gets in trouble until someone tries to sell it. If they can catch you, you're all in trouble.
who says I'm stealing it? There's a website called Read Comics Online.
that's stealing.
Why aren't they taken down?
By they're because they're in Russia.
You don't know that.
Yes, I do.
You don't know that.
What are we in Russia?
Anyways, um,
Uh,
I'm gonna get freaking taken off YouTube now because Jimmy. Uh, so whatever people do in their own free time, that's on you. But technically, for the people who don't understand, including Dragon Majesty over here, love you, buddy, but you're incorrect. If you illegally stream or download intellectual property that you do not have the right to do so, that is piracy. So if you go on to a torrent site and you download your favorite, I don't know, music from whatever artist, you get it for free, you take it, and you listen to it for your own pleasure, that is piracy. If you distribute it to someone else, that is also piracy. You do not have to sell it. You can just give it away. If you don't have the right to do so, according to IP laws. Now, I'm not the judge and juror. You can live your life. I'm not going to arrest anyone. I don't have the power to, nor the desire to. I just want people to understand what it is.
I'm too broke for this.
I understand. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
No, you don't have to tell me anything. I'm doing it myself.
You know? And this is why the comic book industry is crumbling.
Dude, they've been saying that forever.
Well, not forever. Just your lifetime. It started crumbling before you were born.
There's nothing wrong with the comic industry. Ash Joe Quesada said so last week.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Joe Quesada told me.
That's right. And once again, I'm just sorry. This is the year that the comic book industry is collapsing.
For those of you that may not understand what Eric is saying, Joe Quesada posted a tweet where he showed a picture of all these crowds at New York Comic Con. I think it was New York City Comic, maybe it was San Diego Comic Con, one of them. And he made this snarky tweet about every year I hear about the comic book and it's just like it doesn't get it. If you go to San Diego Comic Con, there are the amount of like booths selling books is dwindling every year. It's all pop culture stuff. It's all movies. San Diego Comic Con gets more people going just to that show than any comic can sell. If everyone at San Diego Comic Con would be thriving. That's how many people go to attendance of the show. It's like it's in the hundreds of thousands. And there's not a single comic on the shelf today that can sell 100,000 or to readers. There's sometimes comics will sell over 100,000, but that's because they've got 20 different variant copies and speculators that they buy every single cover.
It's because Jimmy and his crew couldn't get to the stores to steal them.
Yeah.
You're so funny.
Jimmy's like, I found these comics off the back of a truck.
They're my friends, not mine.
I found some watches on the back of a truck once.
I bet you did. Oh man!
I figured that was 38 years ago. I figured the statute of limitations just expired.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's true. Hey, you know what? Not that I've pirated stuff. Man, back in the Napster days, when I was like Jimmy's age, actually. Remember Napster, Eric?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like Jimmy's age when Napster was around, man. And I was just like music free. Download everything.
But here's the thing. All the artists were right there with you going, yeah, take it. It's free. Woo. Hug a tree. Yeah. And then, they didn't realize what was coming around the corner. The only people that did was Metallica.
Right.
And they got killed for it.
Right.
And guess who's one of the few bands that isn't going to have to tour until they're 80?
Right.
Metallica. It's just,
you're right. Now that killed the movie. That killed the music industry.
I can only, and what's worse, I said, 'cause I was, in the retail end of that at the time, and you could see it getting, worse every year. Then all those aging hippies decided that the cardboard boxes that the CDs came in, so they would take up enough space to make them harder to steal.
Well, right.
They decided, well, those aren't environmentally friendly, so they all pissed and moaned, and we all had to go buy, the plastic shucks that the CDs would fit in. So it cost all of us thousands and thousands of dollars. Then all these little creative geniuses started putting them in cardboard things that didn't fit.
Oh yeah, I hated that when they went through that whole thing about like, oh, the plastic's killing the planet. So they were making all these
Yeah, well, first
eco-friendly.
they made us do that. Then they said that was killing the planet. So the cardboard wasn't, didn't work. The plastic didn't work. And they went back to doing cardboard. So now if I go to a Chuck E. Cheese with my nephew someday, and the lead singer of Smash Mouth is my waiter, good,
Wow,
because
that's kind of harsh.
because well they did it to themselves.
I don't know if they all did it to themselves.
Oh, they
Napster, man, Napster made it so easy. Like
no, but I'm
today,
saying, but they were so on board with it because like I said they were, because they were all such, leftists that it was like, oh, share, commune, woohoo, and then they go, where's our royalty checks? Well, you don't get them anymore because no one's paying for your music. Well, what do you mean?
yeah, there was like a gravy train though, man. I think like in the '80s, music was at its peak.
Yeah, because well, that was the last decade that you had to pay if you wanted it.
Well, it was the generation of MTV, I think, as well. I
Well,
mean,
sure,
my
and
my generation grew up like today. It's like kids are just on YouTube. It's my generation was just like glued to MTV and just playing music videos nonstop. I remember like I had VHS tapes where I would like record all my favorite videos, just be like, "Oh shit, this new video," and I
oh yeah,
and I
yeah, Ed will remember this because I think he's old too. I can remember when our FM stations in town would have a special event to play a new album. I mean, think about how
yeah.
quaint that sounds now. And we would sit there. We'd have our little portable tape recorders shoved up against the radio so we could record it before it came out.
But I mean, MTV people that are like in more Jimmy's generation that missed the era of MTV, like don't have the same scope and realize like how influential that was to getting people to buying music, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I think the reason why Thriller will never be it'll be the biggest selling album of all time forever is because it was like right in the height of that MTV generation, and it got me to buy lots of music, that's for sure.
And it killed the radio star. I mean, it said it in the very first video.
Yep, it killed the radio star. But then when Napster came around, like today, if you want to pirate, you gotta get a torrent, application. You gotta kind of know how to you find the torrent sites to get, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. But Napster was just like, Michael Jackson Thriller download. It was like simple. It
Well,
just found your music for you.
now you don't even have to download though. I think if you're on Spotify, you can just tell what you want to hear. And
Yes, but you got to pay the fee.
but yeah, but I mean, that's
10,
what a
10 bucks a
couple.
month.
Okay, versus yeah, that's how much a cassette was. And I'm saying, yeah, I mean, as opposed, up against like what you used to have to pay for music in our day.
Hmm.
That's a pretty small price to pay.
Am I
But
the only one who still collects vinyl?
no, vinyls. That's a whole other kettle of fish there, Josh. That vinyl is, there are people like listening to it, but it's also it has a collectability, and we sell more vinyl than we sell more analog than digital at our store, and have for several years now. It's like it's 1977 again.
Vinyls,
Um,
vinyls for those hoppus hipster fucks.
well, no, actually, it's not. I mean, it
Trying to
appeals
use
to
that word in
them.
a sentence.
What was that foppish?
Hoppus hipster fucks. Hoppus
I, I thought it was.
hoppish
I thought it was.
hipster fucks.
That was foppish, hipster
No,
fucks.
you'd mistaken it for foppish. Although
Well,
foppish does sound good.
before before those fucking hipsters were like, oh, it's cooler now. Dude, I've been collecting them since I was 6.
No,
Jimmy,
it does appeal to them, but and it also
vinyl.
appeals to kids with young upper middle class kids with disposable income. Like like my brother's daughter is into vinyl, but his son isn't. So I mean, it's that's actually kind of a weird dichotomy. Um, but there's also a lot of people my age that have gotten back into it. And I'm glad they do because I said without that, this industry would be gone. But almost every new release that comes out now comes out on vinyl again. In the '90s, it was 5%, if that. And basically the only people doing it were the punk bands, like the pseudo punk bands of that era, like
Or
like the Black Flag types.
Nirvana, Pearl Jam.
you had to special order your vinyl because you had like all the DJs would use vinyl because
We didn't
you
carry
can't
much in
spin.
those days.
Yeah, you had to go to like special outlets to get your vinyl. But nowadays, I mean, Jimmy, in your lifetime, there hasn't been a time in your life where vinyl wasn't for the hipsters. Like
Yeah,
vinyl's
people
been
weren't
dead
collecting.
forever.
It's been like hipsters started collecting them as of like the past 5 years.
No, no,
It
no, no.
hasn't been like a big hipster thing my whole
The
life.
reason vinyl came back was because the hipsters.
I didn't say it wasn't.
Not
No,
altogether, not in their entirety though.
but vinyl came back like in the '90s, like before you were born. Like
It,
Mm.
it died in like the '70s.
No,
Well, maybe the early
actually,
'80s.
it
Early
definitely
'80s.
Actually, was around in the '90s, but it was not prevalent by any stretch.
dude,
Yeah,
it
it was
started to
pretty
come
much.
back around 2012, like prevalent 2012.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've been in this business this whole time, and we have increased our new vinyl section from a couple of rows in an album bin to we've gone from like 2 rows of new vinyl to 30, and they're big, like rows that hold over 100.
Hmm.
And that has happened in the last 7 or 8 years. The used vinyl market
what you're
has
saying is that
always been there, but it's exploded again as well.
Well, because the vinyl is kind of like all weird niche things. If they get successful, or they eventually reach normie status.
no, you're stuttering now because you lost. The question, it's literally
I love when
they
people that
came
weren't
back.
around, even alive, tell me what I experienced was wrong.
No, you lost the argument. I told you it came back around 2012, and Breen just proved it.
No, it came back before then. It came back in the '90s. I remember distinctly when vinyl started making its comebacks.
Breen just said there was hardly ever about there was about 5% is what he said for vinyls in the 90s, and the only ones who were doing it were the grunge and hipster. I'm not hipster, but like
Yeah,
dark.
the hipsters.
Well,
Oh, good. You did a gotcha. You're wrong.
in the early
You did
'90s, the smaller labels like SST and Epitaph and Lookout and labels like that were still doing them with limited print runs, and it was for it wasn't for hipsters. It was more for like I don't know what you would have called those kids back then, but um, I
oh,
mean
bro.
it's always been around. But as far as like there were years where like the latest release of a popular artist more than likely was not going to be released on vinyl. They've since all gone back and been pressed, um, but yeah, the last 7 or 8 years, you know, vinyl has has really come back strong, and it's real close. I don't know if it's overtaken digital, like nationwide, but I know as far as like our store, it's definitely but catalog, it's not even close. I mean, we still sell a decent amount of new metal on CD, but as far as like if you take out new release metal, we sell more new vinyl than new CDs, and I never thought that would come to pass.
Well, part of it's too like CDs dying, right? CDs being
Oh,
replaced by the digital.
well, yeah. I mean, you'll get kids that would pay $30 for a piece of vinyl that they wouldn't give you 30 cents for the same thing on CD because
Well,
they've grown up knowing how to download. It holds no appeal to them to have the CD. Those are useless to them, but they like vinyl.
this is a really good topic. I like this. Dragon Majesty, thank you for your piece of knowledge there that supports my argument. He says it came back in the 90s. Nicolas Cage talks about it in the movie The Rock,
It
The
which
it
was
movie
released
that
in the
it
90s.
came out.
hadn't gone away. It was more or less lying dormant.
Well, it was appealing to the hipsters. It wasn't a mainstream thing. What I was trying to attest was that your big growth recently, in recent years, is because it's transcended the hipster movement and latched on to more normie culture. And now, like, everyday schmoes are just like, vinyl. Where
Right.
before
I'm
it was
not
only
disagreeing with that. I'm just saying it was.
no. Jimmy's disagreeing with it.
No, I didn't. I said it just recently came back since like 2012.
No, it came back in the 90s.
No, it never left. I'm just saying it got big again.
Jimmy, it did leave. You were
God,
not
never.
on even on this planet. I bought vinyls. I was a person who didn't like cassette tapes. I bought vinyls. I had a big record collection. Then CD came out.
Good. You were one of the 5%.
No, I wasn't one of the 5%. I was one of the most everybody that said, "Yeah, why am I buying these records again? CD's so much better." And then in the 90s, towards the end of the 90s, people were like, "Oh yes, but you can't get that superior sound that could only be recreated on analog." And you started getting all these weird little hipster audiophile guys that were like, "I only listen to music on vinyl." And that's where it all started coming back.
Hey, Jimmy, you notice how Ash tells you how he loves how somebody that wasn't alive tells him what he was experiencing, but he's telling me who was there the whole time selling this stuff that I'm wrong too.
I didn't say you were wrong. I said it was
I'm
appealing to a
kidding.
niche
I'm
crowd.
kidding. No, when we had the 6 stores, here's how dead vinyl was in the 90s. One of our stores had vinyl, the other 5 didn't for a while.
Well,
And
here's another thing though. You and I mean this is not disparaging. I'm not trying to. You live in Kentucky. I live in Southern California. I live in the mecca where you're going to find a large density of weirdo hipster type people. You live in a more grounded culture. It's like the ratios of that. You're not going to see the same levels. I don't think so. We're going to have different experiences. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But most of the country isn't hipster.
Yes, I know. I'm not. I never suggested that. That's what niche means. It's a
Exactly.
small.
Like yours were like the 5% of people who still had vinyls in the 90s. Because you were there. Look, you're near the
No,
hipster.
people stopped buying vinyls. Vinyls went away. I didn't even know until the 90s when it started becoming this hipster thing. I was like, you can still get vinyls? What the hell? Like, what? Like, yeah, I had thought they were just gone the way of the ghost. And then I found this whole movement of people who were like, oh, no, vinyl. It's all about vinyl. CD is for chumps. You can't
First,
get real audio reproduction on a CD.
they didn't go away.
now, when I'm talking about when I'm talking about vinyl, I'm talking about the used market because the new market was pretty much like I said, the only people still producing new vinyl were smaller punk labels and the very very occasional big release, but but like we and none of our stores carried new vinyl. What little we could get from like rock acts. I mean, the only like one of our stores carried a small section of vinyl of bands like the Queers or the Offspring, Black Flag and
Jam.
stuff like that. Um, but but I'm saying, even the used market had shrunken to the point to where, of all of our, at one point we didn't even have used vinyl in all of our stores. So it's just, I'm glad that it's, come back the way it has, but and I think it's kind of actually been a little bit more than retro at this point because I kept waiting for it to go away, and it keeps getting bigger.
Well, that's good. And this is actually where I was wanting to segue to. It's a really kind of cool analog to the comic book industry because the comic book industry is facing a similar dire straits of digital replacing it. And the one thing that analog has, with vinyl is you can't replace that digitally. You cannot get the vinyl experience on a download off some pirate site.
And you know what else you can't do with it? You can't get $80 for it, selling it on the secondhand market.
There's that as well. The
So
collectability is a
same
great
thing,
point
yeah. I
too.
mean, that's
But so with comic books, you and that's even probably a better analogy for comic books. A physical floppy has that potential collector value that can't be ever duplicated. And I think that's what the music industry. I don't think they're placing all their bets on vinyl or anything like that. I think that's just sort of something that
oh
grew.
yeah. To your the label, the labels are still even fighting it to a degree because they'd like nothing better than to not have to mess with any physical product at all. But then somebody said, "Hey, you know what? We're we're actually making a little bit of money again."
Yeah,
It's
because and the thing is you can't pirate it, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, music's a much bigger industry, but that's what comics need to do, in my opinion. Is they need to focus on the aspects of what they deliver that can't be
well, yeah. I mean, you
pirated.
can pirate the music, but what you can't pirate is the 12 inches of wax. Just like you can pirate a comic, but you can't pirate the floppy itself. And you have to get people interested in owning the physical copies, and for whatever, whether they're to read, to hoard, to resell, or for whatever reason. But that's to me that's paramount for the survival of either industry, because if there's no one, if the only option is basically is digital, eventually people will decide there are better uses of their time. So why would you sit there and read something on your computer if that was your only option, if you could also go on there and play a video game?
Mm-hmm.
I said right now it's kind of like it's more convenient, which is kind of what happened with CDs when they first came in. But now people are like taking a step back, and it fortunately, maybe some people, maybe half the audience will wake up one morning and say, "Wow, I just realized I have to take something out of the jacket, put it on a turntable, move the needle over, set it down, or to play a record. That's a lot of work." And then half the people decide overnight they're not into it anymore. But you know,
Well, that's what happened in
eh,
back in the 80s.
exactly. And I said I'm hoping
CDs were
people
a
don't figure that
revelation.
out again.
Jimmy does not understand the pain of what cassettes were.
Yes, I do.
You do? How
Do you
Yeah.
know, Ash? Do you know those are making a comeback?
cassettes?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
That's
Ash, why do
stupid.
you still remember?
You know why? It's that stupid Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Oh,
But the hipsters are into cassettes now, and it's just like in my simplest way to explain this away is the people that were around in the 70s, you know, don't want to relive the 70s fashion. People who had to mess with cassettes don't want to deal with them again. It's all these hipsters that go, "Oh, these are cool," until the first time they go to pull one out of their player, and it's you know
well,
what I'm
here's the
talking
thing.
about.
So records have a couple advantages. The primary one being the audio um, that can't be replicated on anything digital. The second being someone pointed out that, you get the nice big art, if you like album art and stuff, those records, some of those records are beautiful. Um, CDs have that convenience factor, like the ability to like skip tracks you remember the first time you had a CD, you're like, I could just go to any track I want. I can make playlists, I can randomize, I can do all these things. Like a cassette tape was just a pain in the ass because it was always linear. You couldn't skip songs, and
But they had the one built in that you could take them with you in your car.
yeah, you could take them in your car.
Yeah, you
But
couldn't
here's
do
the
that
thing: not only
with
were
the
they
record.
less convenient, but they sound the quality, the sound quality on a cassette is terrible. Like,
But I mean, I said they had no business surviving once CDs reached any level of saturation, and they kind of didn't. They were gone by the mid '90s, you know, and I'm surprised they hung on as long as they did.
Cassettes weren't made for quality; they were made for convenience.
You are correct.
well, here's the thing: that cassettes were made because the previous option was vinyl.
Well, yeah, we wanted to have something that we could listen to in our
The
cars.
Walkman, they
When
were
when
made
you're
The eight
yes,
tracks.
when your other option is just vinyl,
Well, no, remember the 8 tracks?
those were dead,
Those were hideous. But
and
I'm
they were
old enough
dead.
to have had that too.
They were yes, and they were dead. Like, so when your only other option, like when I came into music as a child in the '80s, the first albums I ever bought were on cassette. And then I went as I was like discovering music and being like, then I was like, I really want albums because I was attracted to the big covers and the art and everything like that. And cassettes were these little plastic things and they weren't as cool. I had no idea about sound quality or anything like that. But I did know all about records because the first thing I ever had was one of those little suitcase record players. You remember those
Yep.
that you get for kids? But I
Mhm.
had my like, I wish I had this. I had a Spider-Man, like one of those Spider-Man read along and play and read along or whatever
Tower
out,
Records.
and it was
Nerd.
cool. It was a really cool story about J. Jonah James's son, and he's a werewolf, and he comes back from the moon, and anyways, um, so I had records I was kind of familiar with, and so I got into albums, and I was like, oh, and I was this burgeoning little teenager with my album collection, and that was a cool thing back then, dude. Going to the used record stores. There was one here in San Diego that was like really cool. Like you said, very punk, very metal, but like man, just all these old albums and the collectability of I was totally into that. Um,
I have
and
two used record stores on the same street.
and so what I did was I would buy records and then I would record the records onto blank tapes for so I could listen in the car, or, Walkman or whatever. I stopped buying cassettes. I just made my own. But once CDs came out, both of those went the way of the ghost. I was done. I was like, CDs are so much better. Um, and I didn't understand until, like I said, when in the '90s, I had a buddy who was like, into that whole scene about the audio quality of these vinyls, and I was like, whatever. It's like it's good enough for me, you know.
No, I said the coolest place I ever went to when I was a kid was a place called Mole's Records. In the front of the store was used vinyl, and then there was a back room that had comic books and Rolling Stones back issues just sitting,
Nice.
on tables. And this was in 1975, 76. And I said, I thought that was, we would go up there and we'd make sure that one of us had a dime for the trip home in case we broke down. We'd get to a payphone and make a phone call. That was our only rule, that one person held on to a dime.
Wow.
Because there was,
Back when the dime was worth $10.
well, no, it was worth a payphone call though. But, yeah, because I said, I mean, there was this, you couldn't spend your way out of that place.
Yeah, I got a place here in Spokane called Groove Merchant, and then 4 businesses down, which is like not even a block, is a place called 4,000 Holes, and
Do you know why it's called that?
I actually don't.
It's from a Beatles song, "A Day in the Life." You know, there's a line there where he has to count all the holes, and
Oh, I thought you were talking about Groove Merchant.
no, the 4,000 holes. It's a yeah. He had to count them all, and now he knows how many holes it takes to fill the what Albert Hall or whatever that is. That's where that comes from.
Okay, I was thinking you were talking about Groove Merchant
No.
because there was like a delay on my side. Yeah, whatever. So like the guy who works at 4,000 Holes knows me because I go in there once a month to see if they have any new Ray Charles. And he always holds them for me. He goes, you don't have the one you're looking for, because I'm looking for a. So Ray Charles came out with "Hit the Road Jack," but it came out as a single, and you couldn't find it on any um, real like album, except for when I think when he passed, they put out an album. It was like a gold album with like his face on like a it was like a seal of his face, and they have two discs in there. And one disc has like um, Georgia on my mind, and the other one has Hit the Road Jack. I bought it at a yard sale, and I didn't notice, but when I got home, the one disc that had Hit the Road Jack wasn't there. So yeah,
Next time you go in there, ask him if he has any of the Ray Charles singers.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, just some old white guy from the 50s.
But he wanted. I bought a. I don't know if you do. You know T Rex?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got
That's what
the.
whenever I if I want to get when I drop the line, whatever happened to the England teenage dream, he doesn't get it, but I get a chuckle out of it.
I picked up the Red album of T Rex, the one with like Deborah on it. No, not Deborah, but crap, what's that song? I'm sick. I can't even remember right now.
I'm not familiar with that one.
The Red album. It's like his most famous one. It's like when he has a top hat.
But that's the one at the top has the slider.
Wait, hold on. Do I need to go up pull out what I'm mixing? I might be mixing it
I
up.
think he
Hold on.
has. I think he's wearing a top hat on the slider.
I'm pretty sure he's wearing the Right. Okay. Red album.
Man, how do we get into hipster vinyl talk?
Because we are the masters of the segue.
Nice.
Which one is this one?
So
Yeah, it's the slider, but the back of it is red.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I said that. The most famous T Rex song I don't even particularly like. Yeah,
Which one?
bang the gong.
You said you cut out.
They said bang the gong.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, I said I'm not. That's probably. I mean, if I made a 90-minute best of T Rex, that probably would. I know that wouldn't be on mine.
Man, he was like a hipster before hipsters were a thing.
Well, it was glam. I mean, it was New York Dolls, T Rex, Bowie, Gary Glitter.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a whole subgenre of music, but it's a that I think only Bowie was appreciated, and now people have just gone back and said, hey, some of this stuff was really really good. Because most people, you think of the New York Dolls. If you remember who the one guy was, the one that lived, went on to become better known as Buster Poindexter.
I don't know that one.
Well, do you know a song called "Hot Hot Hot"? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Well, that's interesting. I guess yeah. I'm always interested in what level of saturation there is on certain things because there's and Ash can attest to this. There was a time where if you were living on planet Earth, you knew that song.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Tell you the truth, I'm not really good with names, but I'm good with the song. So if I hear it, I most likely have heard it. I'm just not good with like songs unless like titles, unless it's like Aerosmith
Well,
or.
but then again, I don't know where you would have encountered it because I mean, I said, in the God, what was that, late '80s,
Dude,
Ash?
I am so well versed in music, especially in the 70s and 80s.
But well, I mean, like the gist of that song was, yeah, the first line is like, me soul on fire, something fire, feeling hot, 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 and it's just the video's just completely over the top, and but yeah, I said at one point in time, he and Johnny Thunders were in the New York Dolls, and they were, in was it David Sylvain or whatever the hell his name is? I don't know. Probably mixing them up now, but yeah, back, yeah, some of that glam stuff is really really good.
I mean, during the '80s, pretty much if you made a music video, you got complete saturation. Like, MTV was that pervasive, I think. It wasn't like before or after where, you tune into a radio station and the radio station plays a certain genre of music and you get a sampling of that genre. MTV was just across the board. So you heard everything. And so even if it wasn't your normal cup of tea music, you got to hear it. Um, and anything that was popular, you heard forever. Like
Yeah, my I've been getting so I have like almost every Aerosmith album except for um what's the one that has Jaded on it that came out in like 2003.
Yeah, my Aerosmith knowledge pretty much died in the late '70s.
I have that. I'm missing that one and the one where the other car is humping the other car.
But I can tell you this much: one of the reasons why Aerosmith got their MTV resurgence was people
Right.
got it. Guys got in their head that if they listened to Daddy, they had a shot with Daughter. Because Liv Tyler was just an enormously popular actress at that time.
Yeah, with Lord of the Rings.
before that
It was hell,
with
she was
Armageddon.
Empire
Yeah.
Records.
Yeah. Speaking of Armageddon, that was my parents' first date.
Oh my God, you are young.
And a friend of mine, it has a cameo in that.
Speaking of, I don't want to miss a thing. Is Aerosmith's only hit?
What?
Yeah, that's their only number one song they've ever had.
Number one is not what qualifies a hit.
Wait a minute, I'm kind of fascinated by that though.
Yeah, because you got to think at the time in the 70s when they were up, they were going up against people like Queen and some of Zeppelin because Zeppelin was still around, but it wasn't like they were on like the end of their careers of the band.
Well,
It,
they probably had a bunch of top 10 songs, but here's like, do you Ash? Do you remember the Red Hot Chili Peppers song "Under the Bridge"?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was never number one.
Wow, that's kind of surprising.
It was number two for about 6 months, but it ran into, I think, that Crisscross Jump was number one for about, like a bunch of that time, and I said it just sat at number two. So I mean, I'm not surprised that Aerosmith only had one number one hit. But when I think about,
their biggest song, "Dream On," I think hit three.
yeah, and there was probably some gimmicky song that or two that got in the way of that.
Well, you also have to think like during this era, like in the '80s, to hit number one was a huge deal because the competition.
Yeah, you had Def Leppard, um, uh, ugh, Queen. God, there's so many bands. Bon Jovi. Speaking of Bon Jovi too, "Slippery When Wet." I don't know if that was number one. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But if you look at how many hits were on that album, that definitely should have. Because really, really,
Uh, uh, I'm sorry. My narcolepsy kicks in when someone starts talking about Bon Jovi.
you don't like Bon Jovi.
Slippery When Wet was a popular album though.
I don't think it hit number one. But if you look at how many their songs were hits, they just the album.
Well, rock songs didn't normally hit number one. That was another thing. So many of these bands, if you were rock, I mean, you were facing up against the pop, going against Michael Jackson, Madonna. You know, you had the popular little hip hop at the time, like Breen was saying, crisscross. That's the sort of stuff that always hit, and it's because pop forever was and probably forever will be like the single scene. It's not about selling records; it's about selling singles. Rock had a different paradigm about selling records, and you get some songs, you get some popularity, but uh, it wasn't about that one hit single. It's about the selling the album.
But
And
Jimmy, I will say one thing, that I do like about John Bon Jovi, and it's not his music, but it's his taste in music, which has always been better than the stuff he makes. And he went to see a show by a guy named Southside Johnny in the Asbury Jukes, who came up at the same time as Springsteen. They were both in Asbury Park, and Bruce wrote some songs for him, and so on and so forth. And they had very similar sound. Bruce made it big. Southside Johnny did not. But apparently, you know, Johnny got sick before the show, and Bon Jovi was in the audience, and he offered to take over for him, and he did the concert, basically playing the part of Southside Johnny because he knew every word, every song, when to come in, knew it backward and forward. I said that's one of my favorite music stories.
One of
all
my
right, we are at the lowest viewer count since we started this stream. I think we bored Brewer to death. He's dead.
No, he's. I think the yawn was because we were talking about John Bon Jovi. I think he's agreeing with me.
Oh, that might be the case, but I don't think people are coming to Ash on Comics to talk about classic classic rock. And I know I'm kind of not interested, so I'd like to go back into comics and related things, if that's quite all right with my panel.
Well, actually, I gotta get going.
Oh, I just knew it.
Well, my brother's mother-in-law passed this morning,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and he may be calling me first thing in the morning to go open the store for him. Which could be just a few hours from now. So may not happen, but just in case, I should probably get a few hours sleep, just in case I have to go sit in the store all day.
Yeah, no, I can understand.
But um, they yeah, they sell records in my LCS. Yes, it's they part of it's it also Ash, part of it might not be that we're boring everybody. Might be that it's 4:30 in the morning in a lot of parts of the country too.
What? All right, that's probably good. We've been streaming for over 2 hours anyway, so it's a good time. I just didn't want to end it on the boring, dead spot.
this wasn't boring. It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. Um, it was a pleasure having you guys. Thank you guys all in the chat. Ed Brewer, Dragon Majesty. I don't know if anyone else is still around. Um, there's only people that posted. Um, chat always helps. Gives things to talk about. So you guys, anyone's listening, it's important that you participate in the chat, especially when we're doing these unscripted, just chaotic streams. So had a good talk with you guys. Anything last comments you want to say, Eric, before you head out?
No, I said and enjoyed this Ash on Music stream. Um,
How about you, Jimmy?
Um, Not much. I'm just thinking like read Young Justice.
Read Young. Oh my god.
It's a good book.
Oh,
The
face
most
palming.
action-packed Bendis book you will read.
You know what? All right. I will say, and I have my review pending. It's published. It's waiting to go public. Yeah. Legion of Superheroes Millennium #2.
Oh god, that book.
Oh my god. If you thought 1 was bad.
In fact, I think two personally. I think two is better than one.
No.
Really do.
No. But it doesn't surprise me that we disagree on this, but I have a video that will explain all my thoughts. So stay tuned.
At the end of two, I was literally just like, "Oh, that's actually more interesting."
So thank you guys so much for watching. We're gonna end the stream. I don't know when we'll be back together, but when we do, it'll be me and Eric in a car off to give an intervention to Jimmy.
Off to Jimmy Land.
Dude, you're gonna hate it in Spokane. There's a lot of hipsters, man.
Oh, I bet. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, folks.
Yeah.